Okay, we are live. Welcome to this special session that we're doing here on YouTube. I invited my good friend and creative finance expert, Pace Morby. Pace, how you doing, man?
What's up, brother? How you doing? Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, this is a topic that has kind of taken the socials by storm. There's been several news articles out about this, so people are kind of grabbing it. They're resharing it. It's sort of the talk on the street right now. And it's around this investor in Florida who scammed between 80 and 120 sellers doing subject to, I think was the primary strategy. Our understanding is it was subject to, and the plan was to convert these into co-living. This guy acquired these properties, borrowed a bunch of PML to fund the purchases and the rehabs, kept the money, defaulted on the loans, and the whole thing just went south real fast. And now it's getting national attention.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I asked Pace to come on here and do, and we'd love for you guys to participate in the chat, is we want to have a real honest conversation around this. And one of the things that Pace and I have talked about was, how do we bring, when something like this happens, and this isn't the first time something like this has happened or will be the last time something like this has happened, but how do we differentiate between real estate investing strategies and then operators who use those strategies either ethically or unethically, honestly or dishonestly? How do we separate the two? And then how do we also, as an industry, all the way from educators, Pace, like you and me, down to everybody on the ground in the trenches, how do we all have that moral ground, take that moral ground, do things the right way, stand up for what's right, be transparent, be ethical, be honest? How do we follow the laws? All these things, how do we do that at a higher level? Because the damaging part of this, Pace, you and I were talking about earlier, is that all it takes is one headline story like this, and the regulators and the consumer protection agencies step in, and they want to protect the consumer, and they tend to overregulate often, and so then it ends up being a damaging thing to the industry because of that overregulation, because of those bad actors that come in. So maybe what we can do, Pace, is we can sort of break down what actually happened here, and then how do we set that on, how do we make that one thing over here, but then at the same time, I think I lost your Pace. I lost you there for a second. So yeah, Pace, so maybe, and we've got a couple guests in the back office here that maybe we'll bring on here. We've got Ella Ray. She was intimately involved in some of the transaction coordination that went on with this, also some of the unwinding of it. And then we also have Correy, who was the agent that represented about 60 of the acquisitions with this outfit that did this scam. So, I mean, what are your thoughts, Pace, on what's going on with this?
It's super unfortunate and not fun. I mean, it's just like how in wholesale, like traditional real estate wholesale deals, you'll have people that learn wholesale, and then what they'll do is they'll do all sorts of scammy type of things. They'll find the loopholes in the system, like memorandums, for example. What they'll do is they'll go lock up a house under any price, put a memorandum on that house, and then force somebody to come and negotiate with them and get paid $10,000, $20,000. And that's been going on in the industry for 50 plus years. In fact, a lot of the regulation that you've talked about on your YouTube channel about how all these states are starting to outlaw wholesaling, they are over-regulating. I'm grateful for the regulation. I think that wholesale should have been regulated a long time ago. I think creative finance should definitely be regulated. The right people should be doing it. But it's not just creative finance. It's all of real estate. I remember in 2008 when the short sale bonanza was going on and all the people that went to prison for short sales. So it's like, oh, are we just going to ban short sales? No, it's a tool that's needed in the industry. It just needs to be regulated properly. And, smart people like Matthew Potter and other people started doing short sales the right way and kind of weeding the bad people out. With creative finance, it's such an overpowered tool, right? I just made a YouTube video about this, and I have been for 5-6 years saying, hey, if you're a seller, the number one thing you should be aware of is SubTo is a dangerous tool. I looked at my YouTube channel today, like what was the first time I said creative finance is overpowered and it should be used by people that are trained properly? And my team pulled up, we ran everything through ChatGPT. We have 3,700 videos, over 500 videos I've posted about how dangerous creative finance can be if trained incorrectly, one, and two, if you get greedy and you move too fast. And so SubTo, powerful strategy. So is seller finance. So are cash deals. So are lease options, executory contracts. And also, I was listening to a podcast with David Green on Ryan Pineda's show about a year ago, where somebody in Florida, I guess all the scams go on in Florida, somebody in Florida stole all his deeds to his properties, all with traditional real estate, 30 houses. They stole 30 houses from David Green from Bigger Pockets. So the scam is not limited to creative finance. It's not limited to creative. Cash. It's not limited to short sales. It can be everywhere. There's bad operators everywhere. Let me tell you how I found out about this a little over, I think about a year ago. I got a call from Atticus from PadSplit. Okay. Atticus is the owner of PadSplit. And he calls me up and he goes, hey, somebody in your network, somebody in your community is in default on one of their pad splits. I'm like, why would you be in a default on a pad split? They make a lot of money. Like, why would he be in default? And he says, there's a tenant that said that they got a foreclosure notice and they're living in this person's house. Would you mind reaching out to this student? I was like, Atticus, I don't get involved. If my students aren't profit sharing with me, I'm also not going to get involved in their contractor running off with their money. They sign agreements saying I'm not going to get involved in their deals. He's like, it would help me if you did. I go, okay, no problem. So I had my team reach out and we couldn't get a hold of, what's his name? The guy that did it?
Raphael,
I think.
Okay.
So we couldn't get a hold of Raphael. A couple days later, I had a SubTo member that loaned him money, reaches out to my team and says, hey, this guy's not paying me back on a deal. And I did not follow instructions. I did not secure myself. Can you guys step in and help me out? My team starts going ding, 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 red alarm. We send out an email to the whole community. Hey, don't do business with this person. We kicked the guy out. And I never knew about the extent of it until I think like 2 months ago. And then I found out it was like 30 or 40 houses. And then literally 2-3 days ago, I found it was like 80 houses. Holy crap. How does somebody go into that situation? I don't know, but here's what I would assume. Number one, our community is you're always going to be under attack when you build something really big. There's going to be people that attack me. I've never defaulted on anything. I've never had a SubTo deal I didn't pay a bill on. 99% of our students follow everything by the book. But when you get one person that is a bad actor, here's how this gets so big. He learns how overpowered SubTo can be, goes out, starts doing all these SubTo deals. It kind of highlights how fast you can do SubTo deals. The problem is he was being fueled with his greed. Here's what I think happened, and I think LRA could probably touch base on this a little bit later. He finished a couple of the projects. What he was doing, he was buying SubTo deals. He was turning them into co-living or pad splits. He took the first couple of houses and their financial numbers and talked about them online and said,
to raise money,
which then only got more people to give him money.
Yeah.
He then started taking money on, but not fixing up the houses. And he just started buying the houses and pocketing the money. What Ella Ray will talk about today, she's one of the transaction coordinators that's helping clean this up on the back end. Ella found out that he was taking money from investors, was not even paying for the seller's arrears. So he wasn't even helping the seller out of foreclosure, which is like one of the top 5 rules we have. And he was just pocketing the money. And he basically got paid to run a scheme. I think he probably walked away with $2 or $3 million in his pocket.
So really, this isn't even like a SubTo subject to that just happened to be the vehicle. This was really taking PML and then not paying those people back and pocketing the money that he collected.
Yeah. And I don't know Raphael. I mean, maybe I've been in a room with him, or people have, I take 10,000 photos a year. Maybe I've taken a photo with him. I've never seen one, but I don't know his mind. I don't know what's going on there, but I have seen this happen before. So not SubTo, but let me tell you about a bigger one that's going on right now in the industry. There's a guy that has been raising money for 5 years. These are all DSCR, so going to lenders and then getting private money for his down payments to DSCR lenders. And he's doing a ton of like burst strategy stuff. He has raised over $30 million over the last 4 years, actively has like 70 projects going on right now. And he just got arrested for child porn. So I don't know the guy. But it's going to hit national news as well. I don't know the guy. He's not in any of my communities or anything. But he's raised $30 million. Now he's in prison and his entire scheme is falling apart. And over $30 million of private money that basically enabled this guy, kind of like a Bernie Madoff type of thing, like just running a Ponzi scheme. Those guys are out there. And when they see that they can raise money quickly and they don't have to put it in the project and they can pocket it or do whatever it is, essentially uneducated private money lenders are going to enable any strategy to get out of control, and people's greed is going to grow. That dude raised 30 million. I think Raphael probably raised closer to like 4 or 5 million, which is $4 or $5 million too many dollars. It's a horrible situation. But again, it's like, do you call Cadillac and say, Cadillac, stop selling cars to people who drink alcohol? No, like drunk drivers are going to drive a vehicle. The vehicle of BRRRR strategy is not inherently bad. The vehicle of SubTo and seller finance is not inherently bad. It is very powerful, and there are definitely dangers we should talk about today that the industry, I hope we regulate more. But it's not the vehicle, it's the operator who's drunk driving that kills people, if that makes sense. So anyway, I mean, I think we could talk about like how do people prevent this kind of stuff, but before we jump into some of those things, I've seen this stuff for 12 years, right? I've seen people scam each other. I've been to real estate investor meetups, and I've seen people take advantage of each other, partnerships, steal things. Humans are going to be humans, right? At the end of the day. But what I've learned is I'm going to go and find outside training and bring it into my community. So for example, I brought the Attorney General of Utah into SubTo about 4 years ago because I'm like, don't take my word for it. Let me bring the Attorney General, one of the most highest ranking officials in like the country. Of course, he's just Utah. I brought in district attorneys from California. I brought in a whole bunch of high level people, everybody. And I did a whole thing called the safety course. And I require all of our members to take the safety course before they actually watch the actual SubTo course. It doesn't matter how you train people. It doesn't matter what you say. People's greed will get the best of them. And I think the main thing that needs to be prevented is people's ability to raise capital and run these Ponzi schemes. If the guy couldn't raise money, he would have done 5 deals. But because he raised money, he did, how many deals did he do? 80?
80 to 120. I don't think anybody really knows, but
Yeah.
Call it 100.
Cool. So let's say it's 120. He would have stopped at house 5 if he didn't have the ability to raise money. So it really is a PML, like PML enabled him. PML skipped training. PML gave him money without vetting, without doing due diligence. One of the PMLs I talked to, sweet girl, she's like, I didn't even get a lien. He just showed me that he was making money on this other house and I wired him 60 grand. I'm like, not even to a title company? She's like, I wired it to him direct. I'm like, that's like rule number 1. Why would you do that? She goes, I got greedy. Like flat out just admits I got greedy. But like the haters for SubTo, I actually like, I'm not even mad at them. I would look at SubTo as well and go, those sellers, now their credit is on the line, which I've talked about for years. If you're going to do a SubTo deal and you're worried about your credit, then do a lease option, period. Do a lease option if you're worried about your credit. I've talked about that on YouTube. I've talked about that in my training. I brought my attorneys in and talked about that. And what will happen is people will attack SubTo and maybe over-regulation will happen. And I won't even be mad about it. I will welcome any regulation that needs to happen. However, the reality is the operator in a good vehicle versus an operator, a bad person in a good vehicle is going to have a different outcome, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And I think it'd be helpful to understand, like when we say greed with these PMLs that just handed this guy money, like I kept asking Ella and you, Pace, like, how are they so naive? And the answer is, well, they were being greedy. Maybe we can bring on Ella. Like, what were these people promised, and how did they buy into this whole operation with this guy? And then what's the right way? Pace, like, I know you talk about this often, but for someone listening to this right now and they're like, I've thought about lending money on deals. Like, what do I need to look out for? What are the things that I need to be aware of? What are the safety measures? If they're not in your community and they're not learning this at a high level, where do people need to be careful? Because I think you nailed it on the head. You could do the exact same scam with a BRRRR method where you're collecting the down payment money that the lender's not covering, or subject to is the money needed to close the deal or to fund the rehab. It could be a fix and flip, same thing, where you're taking money from PML to renovate the house and then you never renovate the house. It could be any strategy where you're getting money. The scam is you're getting money from somebody and then keeping the money. So there was no scam to the seller in the sense that, you made money on their property. These were low equity or no equity properties. There was money needed to fund the deals in most cases. So it wasn't like, oh, I'm going to sell it out from under the seller or something like that. It just happened to be the seller gets damaged the most because they're the ones that are getting the defaults on their properties. It was the PMLs that were fueling the scam that's enabled this guy to just keep doing it, do another one, 100 of them, 120 of them, how many ever it is. So like, how do we fix that? I think that feels like the core issue here. How do we lend safely? How do we put money into deals where we're not going to end up in a bad situation like this?
It's so interesting. So there's a lot of answers, and we can go through technically how to do this. So I was in a mastermind about 8 years ago, well before I launched the SubTo community. And there was a guy in this mastermind that ended up going to prison for scamming a bunch of people in the mastermind, right? High level mastermind. You had to spend like 50 grand to get in the mastermind. He literally just joined the mastermind to get other people's money. And what he was doing is he was like, I think he actually had good intentions. He thought he had a good service that he was providing, but then the money intoxicated him and he started running like, oh, now I got to take 50 grand from this guy to give to that guy. I don't know Raphael, and I will only assume he's a bad guy. I can only assume that. But I imagine what happened is these private money lenders that are chasing their first deal, right? Sometimes private money lenders are like, I just want a passive return. I don't want to call sellers, negotiate, all that stuff that Pace and Jerry teach online. That's really hard. I've tried it for 3 days. You know what? I'd rather just give my money to people. This is what's interesting about human greed. So going back to the guy that raised $30 million and ended up going to prison for a child porn thing, this happened like 2 months ago. I talked to one of the biggest lenders. She was actually helping him raise money. And I'm like, how did you not see that what was going on? She said, Pace, he was paying us all for 2 years. And so like I would get paid and I would then slowly stop caring about the due diligence on the deal. I would slowly stop asking for liens. I would slowly stop asking for personal guarantees. I would slowly stop asking about what the deal is going to be projected to do, X, Y, and Z. And we all just got greedy because we were getting paid. And I'm like, okay, well, maybe that's just human nature. I don't know how to fix that, but I do know how to fix the front end of lending money.
I don't know that was totally the case with Raphael, because a lot of what I've been hearing is like he defaulted on the seller loans from day one. Like he didn't even make one payment. So like if you're collecting money and you're doing another deal and you're not even making one payment on the last deal you did, clearly you're Ponzi scheming forward. Like it wasn't like it all kind of tumbled at the last minute and he got in over his head, or he was funding another person's deal with the next person's deal. I get that. That seems like that could happen. And maybe that's the case here, but it feels more like he intentionally knew what he was doing and he had no intent whatsoever to make payments on these loans or renovate anything.
Yeah, Steph, I have a student. Her name is Gina. I think you know who Gina is. She did 50 SubTo deals this year. She turned around and wrapped them to families. And she sent me a text today and she's like, this is really bad for me. Like this vehicle of SubTo has changed my life. And every seller we've helped. We've got them out of foreclosure. We've helped X, Y, and Z. And this is the same thing for thousands of SubTo members that have done deals. You've done hundreds of SubTo deals. I've done hundreds of SubTo deals. In fact, I have a SubTo seller sold me SubTo on Des Moines and Mesa, Arizona. I still own the house to this day. I save her from foreclosure using SubTo. I buy the house, still own it. She ends up joining SubTo because she's like, this changed my life. And she went out and helped 20 people using SubTo. Like the tool is incredibly powerful. It's amazing. The problem is this guy probably saw how powerful the tool was and was like, I intend to screw people over. Who did he screw over? Let's talk about that for a second. A lot of people. Sellers got screwed because their credit now is impacted. Banks that are not receiving the payments. Who cares about the banks? I think most people are going to say, I care about the banks. I do. I make jokes like F banks, but that's just to prove a point. Banks are going to lose a bunch of money. They're going to have to take houses back over. These sellers' credit is going to be impacted. Then number 3, what about the agents who represented these sellers that are like, man, I thought I could trust this person. They had, all the right documentation, or they had money behind them, or whatever else. Then you're going to hurt the title company who's like, hey, the buyer had money, which they did. They have an agent. They seem to have all the proper paperwork. You're going to hurt that title company. They're going to be like, we're never doing creative finance deals again. Mm-hmm. Then you're going to hurt all these PMLs, which I think there's like 40 or 50 private money lenders that are all going to lose their money. I mean, you're talking about one guy is going to take, well, I don't know where Raphael is or where he lives, but it sounds like he's going to take about $2 or $3 million out of this deal, never have to talk to anybody. He's going to get arrested. He's going to go to prison. There's something, the FBI is going to get investigated. It's big enough that it's going to get to that level. But he hurt hundreds of people in the process. And if I'm a regulator, I'm going to look at that tool and go, we have to outlaw that tool. It's too powerful. And guys, I'll tell you right now, somebody made a comment. I think his name was John Cena on your channel. He's like, Pace, I'm going to be surprised if Pace doesn't go to prison for that. I'm like, why? What did I do wrong?
Yeah.
What did I do wrong? I taught something to somebody that's been taught for 100 years, really deeply for 30 plus years. I learned SubTo from a mentor as well. I paid somebody to learn SubTo. It's been around for a long time. I
get that too, Pace. I mean, people accuse me of the wholesale regulation coming out because I've taught everybody how to do it, and then they go out and do it wrong. So everybody wants to blame somebody, and it's always easy to assign it to someone at the top or an educator, because who easier to blame than someone that teaches how to do the thing? What everyone's missing, though, is like there's a right way to do things and a wrong way to do things. And I know you feel this. I feel a moral obligation to teach how to do things with transparency and honesty and with respect and legally and all the things. There's laws, Pace, that I don't agree with. I don't like. I don't think they should be there around wholesale. But I follow the freaking law because it passed and it's law now. And so I'm going to step up and do the extra work, the extra paperwork, the extra disclosure, all the extra things, because I want to operate with integrity and honesty. And so that's how we have to be approaching this. And so,
I agree.
It's a call to us too. It's a call to you. It's a call to me. Like, what do we need to tighten up? How can we help this not happen again? Whatever part we can play in this whole thing. I feel that obligation. Like, what can I do to help people not make these mistakes or not be the victim of this happening? And because here it is, and I don't think it's going to go away. I think we're probably going to see more of this.
It'll never go away. This will never ever go away. And the longer I've been an educator or somebody online with an influence, I learned that people are going to do whatever the heck they freaking want. And here's proof of this. Jerry, you made a comment to me when I first started my YouTube channel. You said, hey, YouTube's really hard because the stuff I want to talk about, people don't watch. And the thing I don't want to talk about, which is how to get your first deal. Everybody will watch a video about how to get their first deal. But if I say, here's the things wrong with SubTo, which I just posted a video 3 months ago, 3 years ago, 6 years ago, everything wrong with SubTo, how to be careful about it. People don't watch those. If it's how to protect yourself, people don't watch it. I did this whole thing. I got Brent. This is before you and I were really, really good friends. Brent, Jerry, and a handful of influencers in Arizona. And I paid the attorney. I didn't pay him, but I asked him, the Attorney General of Utah, to come into a big training. We called it Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Deal Street. I named this big Zoom. I had 5,000 people show up to this Zoom. And I had the Attorney General say, these scams are going to run the rest of your life. You have to be prepared to run into them no matter what industry. He goes, we have an entire department in real estate. We have an entire department on lending and people scamming old people and this, that, and the other. And we went through and he did a 5-hour training. He was there for 5 hours. He's come back and done multiple Zooms. Attorney General that goes after these scams. People don't watch it. In fact, this video, the only reason people will watch this video is because there's a lot of hate. There's a lot of angry people. There's a lot of whatever. People will watch it right now. But if you go through your channel, you go through my channel, and you go through and actually look at the videos, I have more warning videos than I have how to get your first deal video.
Well, yeah, if we titled this video, how to be safe investing in real estate, no one would be here right now. We talk about, hey, let's talk about this scam that went down in Florida. Everybody wants to be here and find out what the juicy gossip is, but it's true. But that's the part that everyone has to step up and really get your head around. I made a comment.
How do you do that? How do you require people to watch it, right? The algorithm. Here's the other thing about the algorithm, especially on short form content. If it's not divisive, if it's not hateful, if it's not, hey, short, quick dopamine hit, people swipe past it, right? So then what happens is these influencers, even though I continue to make a video, I just did a video 2 weeks ago, okay, called Why Most People Are Not Ready for Real Estate, the Dark Side of Real Estate. I just made this video. It's one of the least viewed videos on my channel ever. And so, look, I'm not blaming the audience. Definitely not blaming the audience. But if there was a magic pill I could give to everybody, like, here's what I would tell people to do. Never lend money to anybody unless you are 100% prepared to lose that money, period. And Pace, don't you teach people how to lend money? Not really. I actually train people on how to leverage institutional money. Like in Gator, in Gator 1 and Gator 2, you don't actually lend your own money. Gator 3, you lend your own money. And it's like an hour before the course starts where I'm like, if you watch this course, plan on losing your freaking money and go back to Gator 1 and Gator 2. People don't care. They go right into Gator 3 because they're like, I'm going to jump into Gator 3, and they use their own gosh dang money. They don't vet deals. They don't do due diligence, and they chase that elusive, like really good, attractive deal. Now, what's interesting about this is you and I have talked about private money lenders a lot. An educated private money lender cares less about the interest rate, more about the security. You had a private money lender. How much did you borrowed like 500 grand from her? You paid her back. And then what happened?
It was a regular PML that I had done several deals with, paid them off, borrowed it, paid it off, lent it, just a regular go-to. Been with me a long time. Well, I pay her off on a deal around 500,000. And what I try to do with my PMLs is I try to have the next deal lined up. Like, hey, let's fund out this one. I got another one coming up. And she says, well, I need to talk. Let's talk about the rate and terms. And I said, okay. And she says, last night at the local RIA, I'm talking to a flipper, and he says he'll pay me 18% and 8 points. And I said,
hold on, what does 18% and 8 points mean to people in the audience?
Well, a point is a lump sum of the loan size. So 8 points, 8% of the loan amount. So $8,000 on 100,000. And then on top of that, 18% interest on the money as it goes out. And
how did that work out for her?
Yeah. So I said, you know what, be really careful, but if you're asking me to match that, there's no way, because I can raise money that's more reasonable. So she went ahead and did it. And then I just checking in with her a little while ago, and I said, hey, how's it going? Because I try to stay in touch with PMLs, right? And she says, yeah, they're in default, and it looks like I'm going to have to foreclose. Okay. So pure greed, because I'm an experienced operator. I've always paid you back, but you don't want my 12%. You want, an annual 25% or whatever that is. So she just got greedy. And then I told you, I jokingly said, 25% of zero, or zero money of 25% is still zero. Agreed.
It's interesting. I have actually going back to the Raphael thing. I'll tell you how when I found out about this, there was Atticus, the owner of Pad Split, calls me up. Hey, there's a problem. One of your students has a default on a house. I was like, that's pretty rare. Like, it does happen. Like I subtoed my car to a SubTo member, my wife's Tesla. And this SubTo student starts defaulting on my car. Like, why would you default on my car? Like, of all the people you're going to default on my car. And we reach out to him. And it was like 3 weeks, didn't hear from him. Dude, the guy was in a freaking coma in the hospital, and he comes back out of the coma. He goes, oh my gosh. And he catches up all 3 months of payments that it was behind. Guys, like, people are going to default. It's going to happen, but it is very rare. So when I find out this guy defaults, I'm like, Okay, that's pretty rare. If it's a co-living thing, it should be making money. Why would he default, et cetera, whatever. Okay, so then I get a call from a PML saying, hey, I loaned money to this guy, Raphael. Can you please kick him out of the SubTo community? And I go, yeah, if you can show he's taking money from you, I'll kick him out, right? And so they showed, and I'm like, why'd you go to him? I literally was telling you that I will give you 10% interest on a deal on an RV park that I'm buying seller finance, personal guarantee, collateral against other assets. Why did you go to him? She says, well, because he offered me 14% interest in 2 points. And I'm like, did he give you a personal guarantee? Did he have assets to collateralize? She goes, I didn't even ask. I'm like, how many rules do you think you broke? She's like, her answer was like, I broke all the rules. I've heard all the training. I've done all the things. She's like, but when greed was right in front of my face, I chose greed. She's human, I guess, at the end of the day. But the reality is this: if you're going to be a private money lender on any type of deal, fix and flips, DSCR, BRRRR strategy, SubTo, seller finance, does not matter the type of deal. If you're going to be a lender, you better plan on losing your money if you're lending deals to anybody for any reason. Do not depart of a dollar if you are like, I can't lose this dollar. End of story. I put $1 million into a very well-known person's multifamily deal a couple of years ago. $1 million. And am I blasting them all over online? No. I actually even had some of my students invest in the deal. Am I blasting them all over online? No. It's a traditional multifamily deal. The multifamily world, you guys know, does anybody know how much money the multifamily investors that have invested in multifamily deals in the last 2 years have lost? It's to the tune of like $300 billion in private capital that has been lost in the multifamily space. They all signed off on a PPM, private placement memorandum, that says, I plan on losing my money. You guys, if you're going to lend money, plan on losing your money 100%. Now, what could you have done different? Now, when I lend money to people, especially on a SubTo deal, here's what I do on a SubTo deal. If I'm the lender, I actually take ownership of the property 100%, even if I'm just the lender. And I say, when you pay me back, you can have the deed. But as I'm lending on this deal, I'm not going to foreclose on you and I'm not going to let it default. This is the way I train people. I go, if you're going to private money lend, you take ownership of the asset so you don't have to foreclose. You actually own the asset. So every private money lender that jumped into this deal with him was lazy and they did it the wrong way. They broke all the rules and they didn't do any due diligence. They didn't do the paperwork right and they enabled the guy. Now, is the guy a piece of crap? Are the private money lenders a piece of crap? The guy's a piece of crap for sure. Are the private money lenders a piece of crap? No, they're human, but they also broke rules just based on greed.
And need to take accountability, I think, too, which is what it feels like is happening. Like, yeah, Pace, I totally did it all wrong. That's my fault. I'm going to own it and step up to it. You know, you and I, Pace, we did a playlist on private money lending. And I remember when we did that playlist on my YouTube channel, one of the things we talked about was how important it is that when it comes to PML, you're lending to the operator. And the operator that you lend to needs to carry as much weight as the actual deal, maybe even more weight than the actual deal. And what I mean by that is, do you know their track record? Do you understand their business model? Can they show you financials? Are they willing to personal guarantee? Like, how confident are you? How well do you know that operator that you're about to lend money to? Because that's going to matter. Pace, I'll be honest with you. I've done deals that have lost money. And I wrote the check to pay back my PML because I can, and that's the way I operate, and it matters. It's important to me. That's the kind of person you want to lend money to, someone that's going to pay you back even if they lose money. They're not going to ask you to participate in losses or turn and run when crap hits the fan, because deals go bad. Not all deals are home runs. So everybody listening to this right now, if you think about lending, I think rule number one is you better be okay to lose that money. If things go bad and you lose that money, if it's going to put you or your family in a bad place, you should not be lending that money. Like Pace said.
There's also another thing to all this besides the private money. Let's talk about the SubTo portion of it, right? You'll get people that criticize low equity SubTo deals, right? Like, you shouldn't buy low equity SubTo deals. Mm-hmm. hey, idiots that make that comment, I want you to understand that 99% of every single transaction that anybody does on the planet is a low equity deal. Think about every homeowner that buys their home to live in for forever. There's no equity in that house when they buy it.
They pay
Zero.
retail.
They not only paid retail, but they paid potentially closing costs and lender fees on top of that price. They're underwater on 99% of retail transactions are underwater on day number one. This whole thing of like, stay away from low equity deals. I understand the trepidation there. I'm not saying I buy overvalue, but the belief system that this was a low equity SubTo deal problem is so far-fetched. It's so whatever. It's only going to come from real estate influencers that have something to gain to attack me or attack SubTo that are going to be like, oh, see, low equity SubTo deals. I got an email, okay, this morning, or not this morning, but I got an email yesterday. Can I share my screen here or no?
Try it.
Okay, we'll try. So I got an email, Terranceville. Okay, Culver. Perfect. This is a good one. So I just got a deal. I get an email, screen share, allow, cool. Perfect. Nope, I don't want that. Window, email. Okay, cool. So if you look at my email right here, hopefully it pops up. Can you see my email? There it is. Okay, so right here, I'll make it a little bit bigger. Maybe not. You will see from Shelly, I get an email right here this morning, okay? Or yesterday, 7:02 p.m. Closed property 16412 West Culver Street in Goodyear, Arizona. When I bought this property, you can barely see this, but I got a check today for $132,880 today. I just sold this property after owning it for the last couple of years. This property was a low equity SubTo deal. The problem is not the low equity. The problem is the operator who is choosing the wrong exit strategy. So if you have a low equity deal, SubTo, it should go to a homeowner that doesn't care about equity, or it should go to a strategy that will actually make money. One of the strategies that's not making money the last 4 or 5 years is a regular rental. The strategy that is killing it right now is co-living. So when you look at like Raphael's SubTo deals, he actually has a lot of great interest. He has an interest rate at 1.9%. He has a couple of interest rates well below 3% in the low twos.
On the
SubTo loans. Yeah. And he has, they're all like, they were good fits for at least the ones I looked at, like 5, were all potential co-living properties that would have made a bunch of money.
Even though they were low or no equity.
Name a BRRRR strategy person that's ever bought a property with a bunch of equity in it. They're putting their own cash down 20, 30%. They're paying full retail, whatever the value of the property is, and they're trying to force value. It doesn't matter if it's SubTo or not on low equity. It matters, does the thing freaking make money? The problem is Raphael never intended to actually operate a legitimate business. He got greedy. He saw $60,000 coming in for private money lenders and said, how do I just take this for a ride and see if I do 100 of these?
You're probably right, Pace. They probably penciled really well. Like he probably was showing investors, hey, I'm getting into a 2.4 interest rate, fixed. And here's my co-living numbers. Even though there's no equity, this thing's going to print money when we get the rehab done. It probably had a really good sound to it. And it probably was a legit, if he saw it through, maybe. So I think
he did have a couple that were operating, and that's where PadSplit called me, right? It's interesting. Like, let's look at the regulation. Let's say that regulators come in and they try and regulate this. I don't know if you know this, but SubTo has gone all the way to the Supreme Court 3 different times. The last time was in 1995. Okay. I didn't even have a driver's license when SubTo went to the Supreme Court and was passed as a legal real estate transaction in 1995 at the Supreme Court level. Okay. That means other people were misusing this strategy a long time before. Is the strategy itself inherently bad? No. What has happened is people have abused the power. It's like if you gave the Lord of the Rings, right? The ring that rules them all. If you give the wrong person, the morally wrong person, that powerful tool, one person is going to take over the world in a positive way and help a lot of people. The other person is going to turn it to Mordor, right? It's not the ring that's the problem. It is the person that is wearing that ring, how they can withstand that power. So the challenge is, if I'm a regulator, can I go through and go, all right, guys, so if you pass a test, we'll let you do SubTo. They can't do that.
They're going to standardize.
They're going to either just eliminate its ability to be around in 2, 3, 4, 5 years. It'll take a while for them to do that. It won't. I hope they regulate it. I hope that they change the same thing that they're doing with wholesale. To be honest with you, I think wholesale people should be licensed to wholesale unless somebody comes along and creates a wholesale industry regulation. I wish people had to be licensed to do creative finance. I wish people had to be licensed to do wholesale. Sadly, that is taking forever just to do the wholesale side. How many states have outlawed wholesale?
There's probably, I don't know, we're probably up to 20 states now, maybe, that have some sort of regulation. And a lot of it is like, it's stuff you should be doing anyway, like disclosure, tell the seller what you're doing,
Yeah.
So some of it's easy. It's just like, why are we not already doing that?
You get lazy people that see money and they skip the steps, right? It's just like, man, I could talk about 10 or 15 other different types of businesses that people do this. It's like, why is not everybody a great contractor, right? Great example. Yeah. There are good contractors, but 90% of contractors are disorganized. They lie. You overpay them. They go over budget. 90% of them. Well, let's regulate the construction business and make it so nobody can do the work. Guys, sorry, you're going to have bad actors in every single area. I don't know how to regulate it, but I would love for people to crack down on SubTo. I would love for people to crack down on seller finance. But let's talk about seller finance just itself. I'm closing an RV park right now where we're giving the seller $100 down payment. The seller is giving us 3% interest on like a $5 million purchase, 10-year balloon. Could I not damage this seller in such a significant freaking way?
You could run the park to the ground and then default.
Right. And then default, right?
Yeah.
I could even raise a whole bunch of money, take that money, never use it to improve the park, screw over my private money lenders, screw the seller, run the park into the ground, ruin the tenants' lives, and then go, good luck, and then never pick up the phone. Okay, so let's outlaw seller finance. What does this have to do with SubTo? Let's outlaw seller finance. Let's outlaw lease options. Let's outlaw executory contracts, novation agreements. Like, let's talk about novation agreements. Those are sketchy as well. So let's outlaw everything that people are doing, or let's regulate it in a meaningful way that people have to take a test to prove. And more importantly, like, what's Raphael? Raphael will probably go to prison, right? He scammed a lot of people on money. He incorrectly, you know what he'll go to prison for? He ain't going to prison over the real estate transaction because he went through a title company. He did it legally. He did the right paperwork. What will Raphael go to prison for?
Taking people's money and misusing it.
Securities violation. He's going to go to prison for securities fraud, which he stole money from people. He didn't do anything illegal on the real estate transaction. Period. End of story. Guys, it's legal in every single state. SubTo is legal in every single state. On every type of mortgage, it's legal, perfectly legal. Okay. He didn't do anything wrong. He went through a title company. He even did the paperwork properly. He even had a transaction coordinator. He did everything right. What he did wrong, he didn't do it wrong, and he did it intentionally. What he did in an evil way is he did everything right on SubTo so he could screw people over on their money and defraud them of their money.
Yeah, so let's talk about this. I mean, the big argument on the street is that teaching somebody to buy low equity with no context is wrong, bad, it's harmful, don't ever do that, end of story. So, but that's not how we look at something. We don't look at something as the acquisition only and nothing else. So what would be a scenario where buying a SubTo deal with low equity would be a bad idea? Where would that actually be a bad move? And I'm thinking out loud here. If you're going to long-term rental that property and your cash flow is pretty skinny and you don't have a rainy day account for when the roof needs fixed or if the tenant stops paying, if you don't have the means to support an asset through the ups and downs, you have no business buying that low equity sub-2 deal, or even a high equity or any equity. I mean, if you can't weather the storms, you should not be buying that asset, period. Okay,
Yeah,
so that would be a scenario.
you should partner with somebody else. You should partner with somebody else or assign the deal to somebody else who knows what they're doing, period. You should not be holding that property, period.
But if somebody who knows what they're doing buys a no equity sub-2 deal, converts it into co-living, and is creating $5,000 a month in positive cash flow, was that a bad deal that he bought that with low equity?
No.
And that's the point you're trying to make. It's not about the acquisition. It's about the exit that makes something good or bad. It's what you're doing with the deal.
Great point. Okay. So I've got a house. I want to try and pull up the house and show you guys and show you the financials on this. I bought a house from a failing Airbnb operator last summer. Okay. The lady's name is Sherilyn. She went and took an Airbnb course, a $10,000 course that people are so upset. Meanwhile, they go and get a six-year college degree and pay $200,000 in college tuition that they owe the government and student loan debts that taught them jack all. This lady went and paid $10,000 for an Airbnb course. She buys an Airbnb. Here's what she did. Same thing. Okay. She's in a very well-known Airbnb person's mentorship. And she did essentially what Raphael did. She buys a house with a DSCR loan, and she brings in a private money lender for the down payment.
Yep.
Guess what happens? The Airbnb does not cash flow. So now she's screwing over a private money lender and she's screwing over the DSCR lender. It's not any different. Now, here's the difference. She chose the wrong strategy. She wasn't an investor. She was an Airbnb person. Okay. So this property, I went and met with Sherilyn. I'll pull this up so you guys can see this. Sherilyn Pace Morby. I posted the whole entire video about my meeting with her. I'll do a quick share with you guys so you guys can see this. Go and watch this video, guys. This video right here, in-person seller appointment a year ago, creative finance versus traditional real estate. Okay, so this lady, Sherilyn, I sat down with her and I was like, oh, she goes, it was a bad deal. I should have never bought this house. I go, no. In the appointment, I go, no, this is a great house. You just weren't educated on the right exit strategy. This house should not have been an Airbnb. It should have been a co-living property. I own it to this day. It nets $2,000 a month. It's on autopilot. It has a dirt front yard and rocks in the backyard. It's an ugly freaking house, but it prints money. And I've posted about the financials online. A low equity, by the way, when people buy a BRRRR strategy deal, they go get a DSCR loan and then they bring in somebody else's money. They paid full freaking retail. It has no equity. It's the same thing. The difference in sub-2 is where sub-2 is more vicious and more dangerous. Why is sub-2 more vicious and dangerous?
Because when it goes bad, it unwinds the seller who's now long gone out of the picture. So he gets brought back into the deal.
There you go. So the worst part about sub-2 is that it's basically the same thing. You're damaging people. You're buying things on BRRRR strategy or Airbnb, whatever, the same way, essentially. The difference is that the bank is the seller. And now you're putting a seller, a human, an individual human in danger, not some cold, heartless bank that nobody gives a crap about, right? So that's where the uproar should come from. And I agree with it 100%. But it's not, hey, I bought a low equity deal. No, you bought a deal. 99% of real estate investors are buying low equity deals. You pay what the market is worth. Pace, I bought this under market. No, you bought it for what it was worth. Even when you buy a fix and flip, let's be honest here. If the ARV is 400 and I buy it for 250, what was the value of that property when I bought it?
Well, it even goes worse than that. So, Pace, when I wholesale a deal, we like to do an open house model where we try to get 40, 50 cash buyers in the house all at the same time, try to create like an auction environment. Okay, so the one that gets the deal is the one that paid more than everybody else. They have to actually submit their bid for what they'll pay for the property. We don't do favors. We don't give it to our buddy. We make everybody bid on the house. So the guy that actually buys the house is the loser. They're the loser. They're the ones willing to pay more than everybody else. So the whole market is determining, here's what this house that needs a lot of money, here's what it's worth. We're all going to bid on a number. Someone thinks it's worth where they'll pay more for it. But that person who bought that house, that's the market rate. That's the value of that property because it needs a whole bunch of value add for it to be
guess
worth
what
more.
they bought it. Guess what you would call that? A no equity purchase. It has no equity. You have to force and create equity even on a fix and flip. So people that criticize a low equity SubTo deal are so highly uneducated. They are actively buying no equity deals all day long in their BRRRR business or their flip business. It doesn't have equity the day you bought it. You have to force that equity. How do you force that equity in a SubTo deal? Is by converting it to a model that works. So if it's let's say it doesn't cash flow on rental, go co-living. If it's in an HOA, it can't be Airbnb. Go midterm rental. If it's in a lower income area and it doesn't cash flow on regular rental, go Section 8. The highest and best use in a low equity SubTo deal is where the value comes from. And
I got a deal right now, Pace, where this is in San Antonio, which is a high rap market because there's a high Hispanic population that will buy on terms, right? And here's the numbers on this deal. I'm going back and forth with the seller. I want it at 125. He's stuck at 135. It needs about 20 in work. But if I move this on the open market, it's about a 190 property. So if I spend the 20, I'm in at 155, sell it for 190, maybe make a few bucks. Not my thing. I don't really like to do work to make that little bit of a return. But here's what the agent's telling me. Talking to the agent, I'm like, okay, help me understand. Let's get our head around this. She says to me, Jerry, if you will let me sell this on terms, I can get 250. I can get 250 from a seller finance buyer. He'll probably be Hispanic, but I can get you 250 for this property. So 190 would be the open market, like cash me out, get a loan or cash me out. 250 if I'm willing to take 20% down and carry it for a while for somebody. So is that a bad deal? Well, if I'm going to try to fix it and flip it on the open market, the numbers are tight. Now, if I wrap this thing for 250, this could be a fantastic deal. It's the exit that determines what makes a deal a good deal or not.
Yeah, and here you are, like there's going to be people. I think I've done a good job making a good name, a good golden trustworthy name for myself in the industry the last 12 years. Never screwed anybody, never defaulted on anything. Made a lot of people a lot of money. We did a survey 2 weeks ago. I don't know if you saw this post I made, but we did a survey of 2,000 SubTo members out of 17,000. And out of those 2,000 random selected, in the last 3 years, those 2,000 people have made $800 million, not in revenue, but in take-home profit. Take-home profit. Okay, cool. So it's pretty cool. But what happens is when you change people's lives, they talk about you they go to Bigger Pockets meetings, they go to other mentorships, and my name gets brought up everywhere all over the industry. Pace is great. Pace is this. His mullet is awesome, whatever. When an influencer that does not use creative finance, in fact, is pissed off that I use creative finance to leverage and build something big, when we have a problem in the creative finance realm, they're going to jump on me immediately and go, this is Pace's fault. Okay. If it's my fault, I will take responsibility. Please tell me how this is my fault. Please tell me how this is my community's fault. If attorney generals have done the training, if we've done exit strategy training we have 39 Zooms a week. And every day we have underwriting. Every single day we have underwriting. So if you have all the training, you have all these exit strategy conversations happening every single day, and somebody still goes out of their way to screw over the industry, it freaking sucks. It's horrible. But I would love to know what could be done better. Is it shut down the whole industry and make it so nobody can do it? Or is it everybody has to be licensed? Okay. Are we saying that licensed real estate agents have never done anything wrong? Have you ever ran into an agent that's done something illegal or has done something they should have not done and violated their fiduciary responsibility?
I've run into far more unethical agents than I ever have wholesalers. And
so
they're licensed and regulated.
There you go. So anyway, on the SubTo thing, here, what are the things people hate about it? Well, I haven't looked at any of the online stuff. I had my wife brought up Matthew Potter made a post the other day, and there's a bunch of comments underneath it. I'm like, I'm not going to look at and waste any of my time on negative stuff. I'm going to go out and create positivity in the world. What are the things that people don't like about this? Like, what are the things they're taking aim at?
Well, I mean, we've touched on it pretty heavily. I think this idea around low equity, what I'm seeing is everyone saying, you know, when you got into low equity while the market was good, that was okay, but now you're not able to weather the storms of a down market or a slow market or whatever. And now all these people who bought low equity loans are all going to be defaulting and the entire thing's going to fall on its head. So that seems to be the narrative. But again, it goes back to that misunderstanding. And there's truth to that. If you bought a low equity or whatever, if you bought a bad deal and you're not able to weather through the ups and downs, then yeah, you should never have bought that deal. But the same thing holds true with a high equity deal or any deal. So I'm not really following it.
I'll make an argument for them. So low equity. All right. So why do we not like low equity? We don't like low equity because if the property is losing money, I can't exit that deal.
Can't sell it.
In a traditional person's mindset. Okay. Traditional person's mindset says, well, if you buy a low equity SubTo deal and it doesn't make money and you're hemorrhaging, let's say on a regular rental or an Airbnb in the last 3 years, we can all agree has been decimated, right? I just sold my last Airbnb. What did I do? I converted my houses into different strategies, midterm rental, Section 8, whatever. If I have a low equity deal and it is not going to cash flow, let's say it's co-living, it's not operating as co-living, and that was the only strategy I knew that could make money. Here's the beautiful thing about creative finance. I could have easily sold that on a wrap, sold it on a lease option to somebody who does not care about cash flow. The thing about creative finance over and over and over is there is no way that you should default on a creative finance deal if you know the strategies to exit the deal. You can exit at an even higher number than the retail market can go. The problem is the traditional people that are not educated on creative finance, which it is a super bazooka, super powered weapon. They think, oh, well, a BRRRR strategy deal doesn't make money on a regular rental. I have to sell it and get rid of it. It's like, no, you could sell it on seller finance. You could sell it on a lease option. You could do a whole bunch of things and sell it to a family, Hispanic buyer, like you mentioned. A lot of people in SubTo do that. And so that really just highlights Raphael never had the intention of doing these deals correctly. He had the intention of defrauding private money lenders from day freaking one.
Pace, this would have been, I think, the end of 24. And I had a buyer who's a real estate investor. They also operate several other businesses, reach out to me and say, I'd like to buy a couple pieces of real estate by the end of the year because I want the tax write-off. And they said to me, here's what I want. I want a Class A property that's not going to be a headache for me. I don't want to be dealing with rehabs and low income or any of that. I want a nice asset. And I don't care if it has negative cash flow. Okay, now to me, I personally would try to find the best of everything. I'd try to find something that has positive cash flow and gives me a tax benefit. But that's what they said. They said, I'll buy, I need it by the end of the year. I'm running out of time. I want something really nice. I'm more concerned about an easy operating asset than I am about a little bit of cash flow. And I'm willing to buy that asset because I want the tax write-off. Okay, so in all intents and purposes, if that were put out into the real estate community, people would say that is you should never do that. You should never buy that deal. It's got no equity and it's got no cash flow. Horrible decision. But you don't know what's going on with that buyer that bought. So I wholesaled them 2 deals that were great properties. They were in Florida on the Panama side, and it might be my internet kicking us out. Are you back?
I'm back. Yeah. I think you're far away from your Wi-Fi router. I think is what's going on.
You've been here at this point.
I have been in that same spot.
Sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, I think that's the point that we have to be really careful about is mixing up the strategy with the operator and with understanding how to underwrite deals, understanding your exits, understanding what makes a good deal.
Yes. And if you are going to be a private money lender on deals, you should understand who your operator is and ask for P&Ls. I think people are afraid to ask those questions and have an uncomfortable conversation. And so what they do is they just take people at their word and they deploy capital, right? There was a guy named Kyle that had a similar kind of like Ponzi scheme going on a couple of years ago. And he did like 100 plus of these deals as well. Similar. And I thought it was going to hit national news. And what was cool is the SubTo community got together. Out of those 120 SubTo deals that this guy had done, the SubTo community jumped in and unraveled, sold on lease options, sold on wraps. Some people bought them for homestead buyers for themselves. Some people flipped them. Some people sold the ones that had equity, all that kind of stuff. The reality is this kind of stuff is going to go on. Anytime that there's an easy way to make money, there is going to be a bad operator waiting to take advantage of people. It doesn't look, creative finance is one thing, and we could talk about that and beat it up all day long. I've made 1,000 videos admitting creative finance is an overpowered mechanism. It is so powerful. It's one of the reasons I love it, but it's also one of the reasons I bring in attorneys and I warn people. Some people need to understand I have a safety badge that you are required to watch not required to watch in the free Facebook group, but when you join my free Facebook group, we give you the safety badge for free. Please watch this. You are jumping into real estate. Be aware you will get your teeth kicked in. Anytime there's money being made, somebody evil is going to jump into that group and try and take advantage. It doesn't matter if it's creative finance. And
you bring up another point here too, Pace, which is one of the dangers, guys. If you're wholesalers, and if you're following me, and you're really into wholesaling, and I know Pace, your community does a lot of wholesaling, is you also need to be very careful wholesaling SubTo deals. And the reason why is just like we explained, when that deal unravels, it's not like that seller that's long gone gets brought right back into the forefront of this deal. Okay. And normally what's happening is you're going to see lawsuits. And when a lawsuit starts flying, they name everybody. They're going to name the title company, the real estate agent, the end buyer, and the wholesaler. So you're going to get pulled into a lawsuit if your end buyer defaults and you were in the wholesale transaction. Even if you did proper disclosure, even if you did a really good handoff, even if you explained to the seller, hey, I'm not the buyer, this guy's the buyer, make sure you're comfortable with this. Even with all of that, it's really easy for a lawyer just to name all parties involved, and now you're sucked into a lawsuit when that thing unravels. So be very, very careful. I have a internal policy where if I wholesale a SubTo deal and my end buyer, if they're borrowing PML to fund the deal, the cash to close, then that's a no-go for me. Because I want a buyer that has enough money to front the cash to get into the deal. If they're borrowing PML, to me, that's risky. It's just a red flag that maybe they're taking on too much. Maybe they're in over their head, and maybe I should not do this deal. And that's just, I'm not saying that's what you need to do. I'm just saying that's kind of how I look at that. And I
agree with that. I have one caveat. The caveat I have is that if they have a PML that is a partner in the LLC and is a part owner of the property, and they go in as a partnership, I will then assign a SubTo deal to them. But like you said, if they're bringing in a private money lender in second lien position on a SubTo deal and they're not partners, I also will have that as a red flag. Nope, we're not going to do this.
Yeah.
Or I would sell it on a lease option saying, hey, I think you're going to default, so I'll sell it to you on a lease option, or I'll tell the seller. The other big rule we have in SubTo is that the seller and the buyer need to know each other.
Yes.
Yeah. And so what happens a lot of times is people outside of our community will wholesale a SubTo deal to an unknown buyer. The buyer never has communication with the seller. I agree. So many things are done wrong in like the SubTo strategy that I've brought in. I'll give you, this is a fun deal I'm in the middle of right now. Last year, I was making calls for brand new students, right? They were setting appointments. I was making calls for them. And I got a hold of this guy named Tim, really nice guy. He's out of Arizona, and he's in foreclosure. So I go, hey, Tim, you're in foreclosure, got your appointment, got your information. How can I help you? He goes, well, I want to stay in the house. I go, okay, cool. You want to stay in the house? Great. So like, how many months behind are you on your payments? Like, how can I help you? He says, I'm not behind on my payments. I'm like, how are you in foreclosure if you're not behind on your payments? I don't understand. He says, oh, I bought my house on seller finance. This is not somebody inside our community. Creative finance has been done for a long time. Okay. I just made it big and understandable, so it blew up. Okay. Tim is a roofer. He bought his house from a seller, and the seller gave him a 3-year time frame to pay the house off. Well, that 3-year time frame came and went, and now Tim is technically in default because he hasn't refinanced the original seller out. So Tim asked for a 3-month extension. The seller gives him a 3-month extension. Tim then doesn't get the refinance. So I come along and I go, Tim, I can help you out. I can buy the house from you, rent it back to you on a lease option, and I can help you out. And I'll give you some long-winded time. Guys, this is last year. I've been in this business 12 years. I still went to my attorney, Sean, and my attorney says, I hate this deal. Do not do this deal. I'm like, why? And he says, because you look like you're taking advantage of this guy, Tim, and you're going to do what's called equity stripping. I go, okay, well, what's a legal way I can do this? And he goes, oh, really simple. Call the original note holder, the guy Tim bought the house from, and buy the note. Mm-hmm. I'm like, oh, then I can restructure the loan and I can give Tim a new loan, and I can do the bank.
He's happy because he wants paid off, the note holder. So he's thrilled.
I still learn something new every single day, and I bring my attorney into the SubTo community every time I learn something new. Okay. It is this business. You will learn something new every single day. You will have to ask for advice from attorneys and other people not every transaction, but a lot of times. You want to make sure you're taking advantage of the strategies, but you're not taking advantage of the sellers or the other people. You don't know all the laws. And so the smart thing to do is ask somebody ahead of you. I learn every day. And creative finance is overpowered. It's like Captain Marvel. I don't know if you watch the Marvel movies. Like Captain Marvel is the worst character because she's so powerful. You're like, why didn't you just kill Thanos? Where were you this whole time?
Yeah, there's no journey.
She's like creative finance. She's just like overpowered. She can kill everybody. Everything's so easy. You can pay whatever price. You can make it cash flow. There's so many strategies. The problem with that power becomes a lot of responsibility. And we do 39 Zooms a week. We do YouTube video after YouTube video. We bring in attorneys. We do everything. You are still, no matter what you do, no matter how you train, no matter how much you care, you're still going to have somebody take advantage of the system, of the industry. Cash, creative, Burr, Airbnb, SubTo, does not matter. You got to freaking watch out for it. And licensed agents still defraud people. Licensed agents still take advantage of people. I don't know how to fix it. I'm glad I'm not a regulator because it's a conundrum. And if I'm a regulator, I'd be looking at this thing with Raphael and going, how do we stop this? I have no argument whatsoever. In fact, like you said, if you regulated it, I go, cool. How do I do it the way you want me to do it? Which is how we do it now. How do I do everything legally? How do I get attorneys to advise me on the paperwork? How do I get attorneys to give me the addendums? How do I communicate with the seller? Hey, you need to be worried about due on sale clause. Did you know if I don't make your payments, your credit will be damaged? Are you aware of that? Sign, 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 sign. Are you sure? And then they sign again a second time. All of those things considered, you're still going to have bad actors, period, end of story.
And I think, Pace, here too, ignorance is not an excuse. It's not an excuse. I was on an hour-long call earlier today, Pace, with a deal I'm in the middle of. This is in Oklahoma. Oklahoma just passed regulation November 1st. I updated everything we do, our entire sale process, all of our paperwork, all of our disclosures. There's kind of a lot to it now in Oklahoma. So I'm operating exactly according to the law. I go up head-to-head with another wholesaler from out of state, and he's contracting with the same seller, and he's not following all the rules. He's completely illegal in everything that he's doing. So let me ask everybody a question right now. Let's say that he gets the contract first. Like, let's say he contracts with the seller, and then the next day I go on appointment. Seller says, I didn't really like that guy or whatever, and I like you, Jerry, and I'm going to contract with you. who's right here? The guy that contracted first or the guy that contracted legally? Because I'm going now in the marketplace in Oklahoma anyway, and I'm following all the rules. I'm following the law, which puts me at a disadvantage because there's way more to do. I gotta give the seller like a right to cancel in writing, all this stuff. I gotta follow these forms. And then I'm going up against somebody who is not following the law. Is that fair? Do I have an obligation to call that guy out? I feel like I do. I feel like I have an obligation to say, you're operating illegally and your contract is invalid. And you need to step up and you need to operate ethically, morally, and legally. Legally, you have to operate that way too. And so, like when we go out here in the marketplace, everybody goes out here. What he said to me, so I talked to the wholesaler Pace, he said, I didn't know. He's like, let me off, let me go, let me have the deal. I didn't know about these new rules. It's not my fault. I didn't know. And I said,
what's that phrase? Ignorance is not, I can't remember. Ignorance is not an excuse or something like that. I can't remember the phrase is. I gotta Google it.
Yeah. And I said to him, I said, when you cross state lines, you're in Pennsylvania and you're operating in Oklahoma, you have an obligation to yourself to understand how to transact honestly, morally, ethically, and legally. You have that. That's your obligation. You cannot say, I didn't know and expect that you're going to get off. I got pulled over, Pace, here by my house. And it was one of those speed traps, where it went like 45, 35, 45. And the cop pulls me over. And guess what I said to him? I said, I didn't know. I didn't know I was speeding. Guess what he said?
I don't care.
Here's your ticket, sir. Have a nice day.
Yeah.
I'm accountable. Yeah. It's my job to know the law. It's my job to know the speed limit. And that's how everybody needs to operate now. It's like, you guys, if you're going to go out there and transact, know what you're doing.
I think also another cherry on top of this is that people assume that the title company is there to make sure the transaction is legal, right? They're going to make sure as much as they can that it's a legal transaction, but do they know what you told the seller? Do they know if you told the seller or lied to the seller? Here's a good example. There are 2 lawsuits going on inside of Arizona, have nothing to do with creative finance, massive lawsuits, okay? The Attorney General of Arizona is cracking down on 2 investors in Arizona. It's public record. You guys can go Google it. Has nothing to do with creative finance. It's all cash wholesale. One of these guys, I can't pronounce his name. I'm going to call him Sriracha. I don't know his last name. You guys can pull it up. What he did, okay, this is what he was doing. He was going to sellers and straight up saying, I have no intention of buying your house. I just want to save you from foreclosure. And what he would do is he would create a trust and he would move people's deed into the trust. It was named after the seller. Also immediately fraud. People that use land trusts, immediately that's fraud. Okay. You're hiding who the owner of the actual property is because you named the trust after the seller, but he was the beneficiary. Okay. You're like purposely defrauding. This is a cash transaction. Okay. And he then told the sellers, he's like, congratulations, we saved you from foreclosure. We're going to send you on a Hawaii vacation to ease your stress and anxiety. So he paid for the sellers to go to Hawaii for a week. And while they were gone, he changed the locks on the houses and then forced the house into foreclosure and they couldn't get back into the house. This guy did this in Texas, Arizona, a handful of other places. His wife left him. He raised money for this thing. Guys, like we're talking, this is going on right now. Not one creative finance deal was done. The guy didn't do one creative finance deal. It was all cash. So this whole belief system of like, oh, creative finance is a scam. No, guys, there's a scam in every avenue. You need to understand how to transact. Having a real estate attorney, having a mentor that knows what they're doing. Even then, I still tell people, I have a member that texted me the other day, Heather. She says, Pace, I got this weird situation. What would you do? And I go, first thing I would do is call my local attorney, a real estate attorney in that state. And I would ask them what they would do in that situation and get them to give you advice. That's the first thing that you would do. Nobody can be the one end all be all. In fact, there's laws from county to county. not even state to state. Are there counties in the country that have outlawed wholesale, even though the whole state have not outlawed wholesale? Has that happened yet?
Not outlawed, but have regulation. Yeah, Philadelphia does, Atlanta does. So there are some cities specific.
Okay, so the state of Georgia doesn't have the regulation. Atlanta has the regulation. Okay, so what Jerry's saying, guys, is understanding your local regulation and having an attorney and saying, this is my business practice. This is what I want to do. Can I do this here locally? And what are the disclosures that I need to give to the seller when I'm doing these types of transactions? Mm-hmm. So critically important. Critically important. And if you can't handle a property, then partner with somebody else or freaking assign the deal to somebody that can. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Period. Like, why is that hard? Why is that like hard for people to go, what this Raphael intentionally meant to not even harm the sellers? This is the weird thing about this. He didn't even care about the sellers.
And nothing to do with the sellers. And nothing to do with the sellers.
Didn't care. He didn't care about the sellers. He cared about operating one or two houses for appearances to go and defraud private money lenders. It was not a SubTo scam operation. It was a private money lender security freaking like Lollapalooza, goes and raises $6 million and scams people's retirement funds because he had two good deals. He marketed to a big group of people. They didn't do due diligence, and they wired this guy on average, what the LRA told me, on average $60,000 per house.
Pace, I have a buddy. This was a phone call I got a couple days ago. Buddy gets a call from Google. Google calls him and says, someone's trying to hack your email right now. Let's do some authentication. Let's get your email. Let's get your Gmail account locked down. So they sounded legit. He goes through this whole conversation. 30 minutes later, he gets a call from Coinbase, his crypto wallet. And Coinbase says, hey, someone's in your account right now. They're trying to hack you right now. Blah, blah, blah. Let's get this fixed. They were able to get his login from Coinbase through his Gmail because they got in his Gmail first. This whole thing, he's on the phone for like 2 hours, elaborate, detailed, no accents. Like it felt legit. They converted $150,000 of his crypto to Ethereum and they took it all out. And they took it out in it all went to $500 to an outside wallet, all $150,000. And this is a smart guy. He sold a business not that long ago. And like, that's how sophisticated some of this is, these scams that are out here. Crazy.
You know, what's interesting is people are so funny. Like, check this out. I was in Cheyenne, Wyoming the other day, and haters are going to hate me no matter what. Okay. Haters are going to hate me no matter what. It's going to happen, which is why I don't pay attention to who makes posts and who talks about what. And somebody sent me a text the other day. Hey, did you see this thing about like people are blaming you for the situation? I'm like, nope, nor will I. I'm not going to look it up. I don't care. I'm going to go keep creating positivity. I have no care for their opinion. Here's why. You've hung out with me long enough to know, and I've hung out with you long enough to know you change people's lives. I've met the people that you've changed their lives. You've met the people that I've changed their lives, right? People that tell me, I've made so much money because of you. You've changed my family's trajectory.
Oh, incredible.
I'm in Cheyenne, Wyoming the other day. A guy flies all the way from Pennsylvania to Cheyenne, Wyoming, and he walks up to me and goes, I need to talk to you. Okay, what's up? His name's Miles. Big, tall guy, 6'4", like really looks like a roughneck, like an oil rig. Looks like he's mad. I go, what's up, Miles? What can I do for you? And he says, I just flew 1,200 miles because I wanted to look you face to face and thank you for changing my life. I go, what did I do? He goes, we just bought an RV park on Creative Finance. We helped a seller retire. The people who hate me will go, oh, he's promoting his course. He's promoting his course. Okay. Then the second 1 out of 1,000 people do something wrong with the tools I give them. Oh, see, he's a scam. Guys, like people are going to hate you no matter what you do. Okay. The reality is I don't care about any of those people's opinions. The number one thing we have to talk about, and what Jerry texted me about today, is like, how do we solve these problems for the future? What are the lessons people need to take? And I think that we've done a really good job of that for the last hour and 20 minutes. I'm wondering what could have happened earlier in this transaction with Raphael. Could it have been the TC that should have known? Or would they not have known on the back end? The title company, how would the title company have known on the back end? Does the title company track transactions after they transact the transaction? No. What about the agent that helped out on the purchase? Do they track the house after it's been purchased, cash, creative, or otherwise? The reality is this guy operated in a freaking silo and was able to go and accumulate all these houses. And because the foreclosure process takes 6 to 12 months in Florida, he was able to rack up 100 houses before anybody even knew. I don't know how to solve that problem. If somebody tells me how, I will do it.
And Pace, if they close that loophole, someone's going to find another way to scam. I mean, it's just the world we live in right now, guys. I think one of the big things that I see from this, Pace, and like going forward is, and this is a fault I have. I'm a very trusting person. Like I was texting you earlier today, and I said, we all need to be scammed at least once to learn. When I first moved to Tennessee, I was trying to get chicks, baby chickens, and I got scammed for $125. Because this Facebook page said they had these chicks and they needed a deposit. So I sent them the Venmo for $125 and then they never shipped me my chickens. And you know what? It jaded me a little bit. So then when I bought my cows, which are $5,000 cows, imagine the scams on Facebook for Highland cows, mini cows. Oh my gosh, it's crazy. How many? They're so sophisticated. They have websites and everything. I couldn't tell who's real. It was so hard to tell who's real on here with real cows. Like I had to go see it to believe if they even had it. That's how bad it was. Like the scams are everywhere in every industry and they're all around us. How do we bring people into an education platform, Pace? How do we bring people in and help them understand the gravity of this? You cannot be naive about what you're doing. If you're pulling $30,000 out of your self-directed IRA and you're like, I'm going to lend this in real estate, you need to know, go into that with your eyes open and think, 9 out of 10 people I talk to are going to try to scam me of my money. And if you go in with that mindset, I think you'll be more aware. You'll ask more questions. You know what I mean? Like you'll try more. I hear you say all the time, I don't care if it's a community leader. I don't care if it's me. I don't care who it is. You have to do proper due diligence when you do real estate deals. It doesn't matter about anything else. You've got to vet all of that.
I mean, there's really even unintentional scams. I'll give you a really interesting unintentional scam, meaning that people aren't intentionally doing it, but it's one of the greatest scams perpetrated in the industry. So check this out. I want to become a licensed real estate agent. So I go to a school and I spend $3,000 or $4,000 to go to school, become a licensed real estate agent. In those 2 weeks, did I ever learn how to comp a property, value a property, understand how to actually sell a seller's house, or was it just a bunch of wasted content?
Or sales and marketing, like how to go on like a listing appointment or anything relevant?
Nothing relevant. So where's the scam perpetrated? Here's where the scam is perpetrated. If they actually taught people everything they need to know, they would be charging them 25 grand, 50 grand, and put them through a 6-month course before they could be licensed. The licensing system for the National Association of Realtors and everybody else that's a real estate agent, y'all don't learn anything in those 2 weeks other than how to pass a test and to become a licensed agent selling people's homes. You don't know the value of houses. So now what you do is you go out and you sell people's homes. And you're putting houses on the market going, okay, I guess the seller thinks the house is worth 700 grand. So the seller trusts you because you're a licensed agent. Next thing you know, they're firing you 6 months later because you had no idea what the value of the property was. That is an unintentional scam. Nobody as an agent is trying to scam homeowners, but think about how uneducated the average real estate agent actually is who has a license to sell real estate. It's the largest asset a homeowner will ever have. An individual will never have a larger asset than their home. Yet they only require them to go through school for 2 weeks. Why do they do that? Why would they do that? Is because they have my friends, 1.6 million licensed real estate agents licensed that are paying an average of $3,000 a year in renewal fees. You do the math, 1.6 million agents, and only 71% of only 29% of those agents even sold a house last year. The National Association of Realtors is scamming agents and saying,
scam. There's a scam.
That's a scam. It's a very in front of your face, we're willing to deal with it type of scam. And you guys are paying $3,000 a year. They're giving you zero education. They basically just go, we'll take $3,000 a year or whatever it is. And look, let's see, it's a cash cow. Anybody in here that's an agent that agrees? Okay, this is good. Deanna Polo Realtor says, not true. Sellers do not want to listen to agents. They say, but my home is better. I disagree. Ask Tom Ferry what he would handle when a seller wants to sell at an inappropriate price. There are agents that will shut that down or not take the listing at all. Mm-hmm. Period. So I appreciate the opinion, but the reality is there an agent that will flat out tell a seller, I'm not interested in working with you if you think your house is worth this? I'd rather go work with a realistic. Yes, there are agents that will. So at the end of the day, it's always going to be the agent's fault of not educating the seller or perpetuating that cycle by taking a listing they shouldn't have taken in the first place. Now, is it illegal? No, it's not. Yeah, it happens every single day. Does the seller, here's a question. Does the seller know how little education real estate agents actually receive before they sign a 6-month agreement with the agent to sell that property? No, they have no clue. And so nobody knows what's going on behind the scenes. So the point is, there are scams, both unknowing scams, unintentional scams, and then there's scams like Raphael that was very intentional. He tried to harm people. The point is, you have to watch your freaking back no matter where you are, no matter who you are. I tell people, don't trust me. Don't trust my grandma. Don't trust my mom. I don't care who it is. Don't trust anybody. People go, trust, but verify. I go, don't trust and verify.
Pace, do you think we bring on Ella or Correy? I mean, we kind of hit this pretty hard.
I think so. I think let's bring on Ella.
Let's bring on Ella here. See if she can give us maybe a little perspective. Ella, thanks for waiting so patiently in the back room.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
So you were very close to this. Maybe give everybody that's listening a little insight. Like, where did this go bad? How did these PMLs get taken for so much? What's your take on this? Like, how did this happen?
I think it was a combination of a lot of different things. I think one of the reasons that a lot of the PMLs got taken for a ride on this was because in the very beginning, it was easy, right? He was getting all of these PMLs back to back to back, all of the houses. There's no shortage of houses to be sold and bought. And everybody was getting their returns just like it was promised, interest only payments. And there was definitely, this did not happen in a silo. There were a lot of moving pieces that had to come together in order to make this happen. For the amount of houses that were actually bought and sold, and it was all through the same title company. And I think when there was a falling out with the title company, that's when things started to fall apart, because now they couldn't execute the same way that they were before. So
did title pull the plug? Like, we're not closing any more of these?
I'm not sure what happened between the two of them, but the title company was doing a lot of their deals for them. I remember I was going to sell him a deal of mine, and I had a wholesaler brought him to me as a buyer, and I had done all of the title work already. It was 95% ready to go. And he hops on a Zoom with me and he tells me that it has to go to his title company. And I said, no, absolutely not. We're not doing that. Why are we doing that? And I know he said that they had their own process that was very streamlined and it had to go there, or otherwise he wasn't going to do the deal with me. And I was totally fine with that. So I mentioned, the seller had to be in second position, and it was a mirror wrap. And I remember him telling the woman who brought him to me, who's a wholesaler in the community, that they were going to have to talk about that offline. So what I later found out was that, the sellers were not being secured in second position, and instead they were being secured in third position. So now they owed the PMLs money. But I think up until that point, everything was going so well. He was sending out these, pro formas, and he was promising all of these great returns. And, as a PML, you're never supposed to lend on anything that doesn't have any equity. If you do, you should always have some kind of cross collateralization. So that way, if things do go sideways, you're able to be made whole again. And they didn't have that, although they had all of the security instruments, promissory note, mortgage, I think, and even some cases, personal guarantees. But those things are no good because there's nothing that they can do with that, right?
This is such a good point. Like, people need to understand, just because somebody gives you a personal guarantee, if they don't have any assets, what good is it? It's meaningless, like 100% meaningless. And I had a private money lender do a loan with me a couple of weeks ago, and we told them, hey, we'll give you a personal guarantee. And we signed the thing. They wired the money. And my team was like, hey, don't you want the personal guarantee? They're like, oh, I just thought it was like included. No, you need the collateralization against other assets. Like, it's not done just because you wired the money. That's not a verbal agreement. Is not a thing. You need to have paperwork, and you need to have an asset with a lien against it, cross collateralized. Ella, as you continue down this, have we trained on this in the SubTo community 1,000 times?
All the time.
Okay, keep going. Happy birthday, by the way.
Thank you.
Happy birthday, Ella.
Thank you. And I think, what was that?
You look good for 31.
Thank you. Actually, yes. I won't tell you how old I am today, but yes, thank you. I think, a lot of people are conflating these issues, and it's really sad because it's not about SubTo. It's not about buying low equity. You just made some really great examples about why most people end up buying low equity anyway. I think there's a lot that has to be said here for lending money and being a good steward of your money and knowing how to lend properly. And unfortunately, that didn't happen here. But it wasn't just the lenders who didn't understand, what was going on or wasn't going on. I think, again, there was a lot of moving pieces here that someone who doesn't see deals that often, I'm looking at hundreds, if not thousands of deals. I've been doing this for so long that I could see these things a mile away. Now, when they're getting a settlement statement and they're not realizing, oh, well, why did my money go to pay off some other LLC? I thought this money was for rehab or whatever it was. So a lot of it went under the radar because they didn't quite know what they were looking for. So I think, we are taught about this. We have many, many classes on this, safety courses, lending courses. There's underwriting courses, there's everything. And I think if you don't really put in that work to learn these things and you're going based off of somebody else's experience, oh, great, I lent to this person and they paid me back. And now you're thinking, well, they're going to be a good borrower, and you end up in bad deals. So it's, there's something to be said for that.
How far deep was it before everybody started catching wind that this is a scam?
Well, I've been dealing with the lenders on this since October, and he was trying to buy a house from me. I think it was like in August. And I remember looking him up, and I had found that he owned some kind of car dealership back in, I want to say, New Hampshire, where he defaulted on like $1.3 million in floor plan loans. So floor plan loans, for those who are not familiar, is when, they give you cars and you have the loans on the cars. And once you sell the cars, you have to pay back the floor plan loan. So he defaulted on this. I think it was like 90 some odd cars that he didn't pay back for. Okay. And there was another thing where he had lent money or borrowed money. I think it was $400,000, defaulted on that too. So when he came to the table and he was trying to buy a deal from me, I was just kind of like, I don't think I'm going to sell to this guy. And he didn't give me the warm and fuzzies. And sure enough, once I did that due diligence, it was very clear to me that he was running a scam on people. When people started coming.
So SubTo was just a new vehicle to scam. Sounds like.
Right. And he was in all the rooms. he was in, private money lending classes. He was in the community. He was doing all these things. And I remember when I met him at SquadUp, right away, right after we met, he started sending me his deals. And I looked at the deals, and as a TC, I'm like, but this has no equity. What are you asking me you want to borrow $60,000 and there's no equity on this? So, but again, I'm a transaction coordinator. Yes, there were transaction coordinators on this. But I think the lenders didn't understand that when you're going into a deal and you're lending money, you should have your own transaction coordinator. You shouldn't be relying on the borrower's transaction coordinator. That's
it's kind of like you're going to go, let's say you're getting a divorce, hypothetically, and you go and hire your spouse that you're going through a divorce with, you hire their attorney to represent you.
right.
That's essentially using the other person's TC.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that happened here. There was just so much that went on, the recording time.
So Raphael defaulted on $1.3 million in other loans like previously, you said?
Yeah. So for his, he had a dealership in New Hampshire, and he defaulted on, I think it was like $1.4 million in floor plan loans. And then another one was with some loan company that was about $600,000, I believe, that he defaulted on. And then he tried to claim bankruptcy. And then soon after that, he found his way into our community.
Yeah.
Can I read off some stuff in the side chat real fast on my YouTube channel? We've had like maybe 1,000 people on there the whole time.
Yeah.
I made a comment about agents and that the National Association of Realtors does not require them to go and get highly educated to get a license. And Diane's like, don't pay agents to be bad people. I don't think I've done that. I think what is happening is you are an agent and you are assuming I'm attacking all agents. I'm not. The point is there are bad situations in every aspect of this business. Title and escrow. There was a scam going on 4 years ago in Arizona where there was a title rep that created a line item on every HUD that looked like a fee that was going to the title company, but it was going to her own LLC that she had as like an expense. And she racked up like $13 million. Guys, there is a scam possible in multiple different parts of this industry, regardless of, okay? And the vetting process, like Ella's talking about with Raphael, it's Raphael, right?
Right.
Raphael
Beta. Okay. So a couple other things. What if they sold assets afterwards? Okay. Because the title company would pay a buyer. Let's see. I'm so glad I did the safety badge because the trouble is not worth any deal. 100%. Guys, if you're in the community, you're not in the community, it does not matter. We made a safety badge 4 years ago to protect people against this type of stuff. We even have a safety badge 2.0 coming out that Ella Ray and an attorney are going to be teaching. You're still wanting to do that, right, Ella Ray?
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
And Pace, I just want to say here publicly, I see how hard you work to teach people how to do these things the right way. And I see the investment you make out of your own money, bringing your lawyer onto Zooms and getting attorney generals and getting all these people to come in and talk about this and creating these classes. So I want you to know that I appreciate so much that you do raise the bar. You are teaching the community, at least people that are going to come through and go through the work of learning it. It's all there and available to everybody, how to do things the right way, how to keep yourself protected in these investments. And I just can't thank you enough for being that voice to the industry, despite what anybody else might say. I see it firsthand, and I appreciate that.
Thank you, dude. I got a text message from you asking if I want to come on live today, and I was like, yeah, I'd love to come on here. And the fact that you have the willingness to even defend me in any regard, I appreciate it tremendously. Even Ella sends me a text today. She's like, the haters this. I'm like, I don't know one comment. I did not see one negative post, one negative. I literally do not see any of it. So if any of my haters are watching, thank you for putting my name out there. I've done nothing wrong. I also will never see your stupid post. So congratulations for wasting your time. Who do we have on the screen today?
So this is Correy Miller. He was involved, I believe, in about 60 of the transactions as the buyer's agent, right, Correy? Or were you representing Beto, or who were you representing?
Yeah, in most cases, it was the buyer's agent. I did have some listings, and that's actually how we got acquainted. Is one of my listings, I had an investor who owned a property, and I had no idea what SubTo was. So this was very new to me just recently until last year. And I was a lender, and I did mortgages for quite a bit. So this was a very new strategy for me. And from what I heard, it was a solution that we could sell the property because it was sitting on the market for a long time. The market went down, interest rates went up. It became a buyer's market. So at that point, we didn't really have any other solutions other than reduce the price, reduce the price, reduce the price. But if your mortgage balance is, 90% or above, it's very difficult unless you want to bring a check to closing. So I was led to believe in saying, hey, we got a solution for you. He was trying to be charismatic and finesse his way into the deal, as Ella probably knows. That is his mentality. And we closed and everything was fine. And the title company, I'd used him in the past before, so I didn't think anything of it. And I was like, hey, we need proof of funds. We need Alta statements. I was doing my due diligence as an agent, and I sell hundreds of properties. I'm not a part-time agent that just sells 4 or 5 deals, but this strategy was new to me in my environment. So we closed on that one, went on to the next one. Same thing, SubTo, closed it. Another one was seller finance, which is pretty normal in the industry. And we didn't have any issues. So I was like, man, we're helping sellers out. We're helping agents out. We're helping buyers. We're helping affordable housing. I was being sold this bill of genuine authenticity of how to help people. So I was on board. I was like, let's go. Let's ramp this up. Let's do some more deals. I was getting pumped up. I started learning about Pace Morby and watching all his videos. And I was like, man, this is cool. This is a real solution. And I also think the inverse, as much as the potential 1-2% of bad apples, what if there were more transactions that were able to do subject to help sellers out of a bad situation? You guys have already mentioned foreclosure, short sales. If there's more people who knew about the strategy to help people and made the payments, would we still be talking about this? And the answer is no. You had one person, 2 people who have done a shady thing, and that doesn't constitute for everybody else who's been helped. So that's where I came from, a piece of if this was the inverse and those mortgage payments were being made, I didn't even know about the PMLs until many months into the transaction. So all this was dropped as a bomb. I started getting messages from sellers and agents, hey, the mortgage payment wasn't being made. So I was like, dude, what's going on?
That's such a good point, Corey. Imagine if Beto wasn't a scammer. He took the PML, he renovated and converted those into co-livings. Now we have affordable housing. We have sellers that could not sell their properties because they're upside down. Their problem solved. Lenders making money. Everybody, this could have been a really happy ending.
Right. That's
this
the whole
point. A great story.
Yep.
Well, here's the thing, Ella. You've done a lot of transactions for a lot of people. Yes. The majority of people in our community that you do transactions for are doing great business, doing a good job. The majority. The problem is when people win and they're doing, guys, our community does tens of thousands of SubTo deals, tens of thousands of seller finance deals, tens of thousands of cash wholesale deals every single year. You will never hear about them. Why? Because people don't like to brag about the money they make. It's like pulling tooth and nail for them to do a testimonial, but you will hear about the Raphaels, as you should. But the reality is, why are people still being foreclosed on? Why are houses still going into expired status where sellers can't sell their house? Why is the market? It's because my argument is there's not enough people doing creative finance, and it's not enough mainstream, and it's not regulated at a level that everybody should have enough checks and balances. We've been trying to start a creative title company that standardizes it across the country. The problem is you have, in Florida, I would imagine you probably have 5,000 title companies with 5,000 different escrow officers that do things completely different. It is a fragmented market where nobody even follows the same. Ella, if I do a fix and flip in Florida and I buy it with hard money and private money, and I do it at one escrow or title company, and then 2 weeks later I buy another one at a different title company, was the paperwork and the process exactly the same?
Never. Not at all. It's not standardized at all.
Okay, so Corey's point is this: if these things were standardized across the board, same thing with Corey. You know this. You've done hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of real estate transactions. Why is it that every transaction you've ever done is uniquely done different on paperwork, timeline, process every single time, even cash?
Yeah, I mean, they have their own process. They have their own guidelines. They have their own regulations, similar to banks. Not every bank has the same guidelines on FICO score. So they do things differently based upon their company policy. So,
Right.
Correy, how far in were you before you realized this was a Ponzi scheme?
this was like probably a good 7 months. And I would say, and at that point, all the red flags started going up. And I started talking to people in Owners Club. I started talking to the PMLs that I was getting introduced to. And I started doing my own investigation. And I was like, this isn't adding up. This doesn't vibe right. And I was having a lot of arguments on Zoom calls with him and saying, look, I don't run my business that way. And I don't work with buyers or investors or sellers who are unethical. You can make money successfully doing the right thing. Mm-hmm. And if you would have continued making the mortgage payments and paying the PMLs, it probably could have been super successful. But that's not my thing, because I had no financials. I didn't have anything. I was simply writing contracts, negotiating deals, doing what I was supposed to be doing.
Well, I mean, think about it. Your role in the deal is that upfront transaction. You're not involved in the second position PMLs. You're not involved in the rehab and the co-living and the exit. You're just handling this one aspect. So as far as you were concerned, 60 deals in, you think you're involved in this great, amazing business model that turned out to be a total scam.
Yeah, it was upside down. I felt like it was a Ted Bundy thing, and you have a super charismatic person, and you find a whole bunch of dead bodies in the closet.
Yeah.
I'm like, what the heck is going on? Like,
do you guys know how many of the houses he actually worked on, or was it like the majority of them he didn't even touch?
There's a lot of speculation, and this has come out recently, that many of the properties weren't even turned. They weren't even rented. Sellers were driving by and saying, oh, like, how come my property is vacant and I'm having a foreclosure? I don't really understand what's going on. And I'm like, that's news to me, because like anything after the transaction, I was not aware of, because
I found a Facebook group in Florida, and this was not an investor group. And it was a warning in this group about this guy. And there were probably 5 or 6 of sellers that were in the chat that were saying, yeah, this happened to me. He didn't make one single payment.
Yeah.
Which means there was no intent. There was no intent at all.
And a lot of
he went to scam the private money lenders, probably was his main objective from the very beginning.
From the beginning. Yeah.
Right. Because a lot of these had arrears, and the arrears were not getting paid off. And sellers didn't even realize that they were in foreclosure.
Still in foreclosure.
Somehow find me and start reaching out to me.
Well, actually, I think this part is huge. Okay. I think this is like one of the most important parts of this. Ella, I found out about this from you today. So you just touched on this, but people in the audience don't know what this means. What Raphael did is, instead of taking private money, bring it to title, paying off the arrears the way that we teach in SubTo, pay off the arrears, get the reinstatement before you close escrow, he somehow avoided even reinstating the arrears, and he took it as a credit on the HUD.
Yeah. So what they did was, the arrears that were due, he would, I guess, tell them that he was going to pay it through the portal or whatever he was supposed to be doing. And they gave it to a credit. They gave it to a credit as a buyer, right? So the buyer got a credit for it. Let's say it was a $50,000 in arrears. So that was $50,000 less that he had to bring to the table, or, that he could keep from the PMLs.
Yeah, he collected from PML.
Right. Yeah. So then he never.
So why would the title company, I don't understand this part, right? Like I'm learning this for the first time. I don't understand, why would a title company allow him to pay the arrears after they close escrow? I guess maybe it's not their job to do that.
It's not necessarily. I don't know. I can't.
Well, it's SubTo, so no one's saying you have to, right? There's no bank saying you have to.
Not just that, but I think there were a lot of other things that they were doing that weren't on the up and up, like not recording the seller's second position and instead putting them in third months and months later.
Help us understand that. I'm not following that. What do you mean put them in third?
So the seller had equity in some of these situations?
No. So when we buy sub-twos, we do mirror wraps, right? So we can allow the seller to foreclose if needed, if the buyer defaults, which would have given them the ability to do that, right? So you record them in second position through a mirror mortgage and a mirror wrap. They were not being recorded in second position. Instead, what happened was that these PML deals, these PML lenders that came in, they were recorded in second, and the seller was then recorded in third. So if the seller was trying to foreclose, they would be indebted to the second and the first position. So not just their mortgage, but also to the PMLs that came onto the table. So
And they're probably already, and they're upside down. So it's not like they're
Right.
going to foreclose for enough to even pay off the proceeds and make the lien holders
they
whole.
can't. They
Yeah.
can't. There's no money there. So, I mean, and most of these people were not in a position to, number one, spend money on foreclosure, number two, catch up these arrears. So they were left in a world of hurt. I had one seller DMing me today, and he's like, yeah, he's like, it's probably going to take me most of my 30s to kind of get back from what
Are
happened.
are you Ella or Corey? Are you getting dragged into any lawsuits from being in the transaction?
Not to my knowledge, unless somebody's on a lawsuit behind my back that I don't know about. But I hope that's not the case, because honestly, like, I was very misled. And when somebody's telling you, especially, and this is horrible, like as Ella mentioned about the foreclosures, people that were behind on their mortgage payments 3, 4, 5 months, and then you have an investor and a buyer who's saying, hey, we're just going to pay their past due balance off at closing. We'll bring them current. It's going to save your credit. I was being told that. And relaying that information to the agent, to the seller, providing a solution. So when somebody's telling you all this, and it's like you have no other thing to go off of, because the track record, we closed every single deal. It was on time. Everything was going synchronicity. It was going perfectly fine. Transaction coordinator, title attorney. I did my due diligence. I checked on past deals. I tried to do as much as
you had no reason to doubt something foul play was going on.
Right. So then I found out all this stuff happened in the back end, and I'm like, I don't know what the heck is going on. So as far as the class action lawsuits, I don't really know what's going on behind the scenes there.
I mean, most of what I understand where the complaints are actually coming from, and where I think the FBI got involved, is my understanding. It actually came from not the sellers. It came from the private money lenders, a bunch of them banding together and going, we need to call somebody for the help, right? By the way, Black Rock Farm, I wish I knew your name. She says, I'm in SubTo, but I used to work in lending for 10 plus years. I have seen incredible scams by brokers, realtors, and borrowers. It's why we have a risk management department, and our TCs are like our risk managers on top of all of that. So just to further go on top of this, guys, there's stuff going on in the industry every which way you possibly can. If I'm Corey, I've done my job. And here's why. I have a title company that's issuing title insurance. They've pulled clear title. They've done their multiple steps. There's a private money lender. People are bringing money to the transaction. I've got a seller that's like relieved. Okay, I'm doing my due diligence. They've bought a couple of deals. Okay, this is going well. You can't blame even the title rep. You can't blame the escrow officer. You can't blame the transaction coordinator. You can't blame the agent. You can't blame the seller. The person to blame is the guy who orchestrated this stuff, who also had been a scam artist who had already gotten in trouble for defaulting on loans in the past. That's the guy that should be in trouble.
What would you do different, Corey, if anything? And Ella, now, having gone through this now, going forward, how would you be involved in a SubTo transaction? Would you do anything differently?
You want to go first? Or you want me to go first?
You could go first.
I want a blood sample. I'm putting people through the ringer now. And now that I have the back end perspective of working with wholesalers and receiving a lot of offers and SubTo offers on my listings and other clients, I ask them so many questions. I need proof of funds. I need their track record. I'm going to pull up other mortgage payments that they've made or not made. And they're going through, I don't know, it's like a week process is what it seems like on every single serious offer. Now, most of them are just LOIs, but at the end of the day, I want to have a conversation with them on the phone. I'm going to pull up, as realtors, we have Forewarn that we can use now to check on infractions and stuff and felonies and whatnot. All of that information is going to be done on every single offer that we potentially are going to accept with the seller. So I'm doing.
So you're still gonna transact. You're just gonna be much more careful about who you work with.
Red flags are up all the time.
Yeah.
Well, one of the SubTo members, good leader, awesome lady, Gina, sends me a text. She goes, "Can we bring an attorney into SubTo that literally shows us how to do due diligence like an attorney would?" And I was like, yeah. And actually, that's the next class we're doing. It's called Safety Semester 2.0. Ella Ray is going to be teaching it. And my Texas attorney is going to be showing you guys how to do the due diligence, like the physical due diligence, to make sure everybody you work with doesn't have previous infractions, which Ella did a great job of doing with Raphael, finding out this dude was already defaulting on stuff. But there's 15 or 20 other things you can do, right? Like, but how do we know? There's nobody out there educating on this stuff.
And here's the sad part, Corey, that you probably don't want to hear. You did everything on your end on the up and up, but that doesn't mean you don't get named in the lawsuit. And it doesn't mean you don't spend thousands of dollars defending yourself just to be acquitted from the case. Pace and I are both in a lawsuit like that right now, where neither one of us are guilty by any stretch, but we're going to still spend thousands of dollars, tens of thousands of dollars in legal fees just to get taken off of it.
Yeah, I think that's
So
something.
be careful. You got to be careful. That goes back to like wholesaling SubTo deals. You know, like know the risk. If you're going to be involved in this and it unravels, you might get pulled back into it. Even the agent, even everybody.
Well, yeah, that's another thing that's, really huge about this is because securities were involved, because of the private money lending, the connectors and the TCs and everyone else is going to get dragged into this for sure. There's no doubt about that. Even the wholesalers who were signing this, everyone will get dragged into this. And it's like, I don't think people understand the repercussions when they're wholesaling SubTo deals because of things like this that could happen.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's really important to make a note of that and remember, you're just as responsible as the buyer, because the same way that I could have sold him that deal, I was going to make $20,000 on that deal. And I walked away from it because I didn't get good vibes from him and I didn't want to get dragged into something. So I said no. But I think, as wholesalers, we don't realize that there is a possibility for us to be involved in these lawsuits later on if something does happen.
Yeah, and I think we're running out of time here, but I just want to do, and this is not a shameless plug. There's no affiliate link here or anything, but I just want to say, if you're watching this right now and you're thinking about transacting creative finance in any of the different models, seller finance, SubTo, or any of the other ones, there's how many are there, Pace? 20 different ways to do creative or more. I highly recommend you join Pace's community and you get the right education. You go through the right safety. You learn all of the things. You show up to the Zooms. You learn how to do this the right way, because nowhere are you going to get that type of education at that level that's going to really show you how to do things right. That's up to you to still transact right, but all of the tools, all of the resources are at your disposal in that community. And so and I wouldn't take that lightly. I don't take that lightly. I think the problem that we're seeing by and large is either people are transacting with not the right knowledge and information, or they're maybe in the community and they're just not learning it and they're transacting without actually using the resources they have at their disposal. One of those two things might be happening. But guys, there's nothing that you can't learn how to do the right way inside that community.
Dude, thank you for saying that. I appreciate you saying that. But I think there's also a third thing that goes on. I think, after understanding today and talking to Ella, who's involved in the cleanup, and Correy, who was involved in some of the transactions on the front end of this guy basically beguiling and being a con man, he intentionally chased down a platform that people are doing thousands and thousands of transactions every single month. And you have to be aware that no matter where you go, whether you're in a private community, you're in a high-level mastermind. I told you guys earlier, I'm in a mastermind that's a $50,000 mastermind, that there was a guy literally in there running a Ponzi scheme with everybody, millions of dollars. Are there less of them at the higher you go? Yes, of course. But I also really like what Diana said today. She's just said, if this gets regulated more real estate agents will actually want to do it. I think the challenge actually is that there is less standardization across the board nationwide. Guys, I pray for more regulation in both wholesale, in more cash transactions, creative transactions. We pray for more of it because it'll bring standardization and more education across the board for everybody else. We don't want to be the only ones that are out there doing creative finance deals. We want everybody doing them. Shout out to you, Ella, for helping clean up the back end of this. Correy, real quick thing about you, bro. Knowing that you were involved in a lot of the transactions and still coming on here and like sharing this with us, kudos to you and having the courage to be like, hey, this is what I know. This is what happened. There's other people that I don't think would have just been like, yeah, let me put my face out there. They would have been like, man, people are going to blame me for this. Brother, I don't blame you for this. I don't blame even the private money lenders. I don't necessarily blame you. You guys got beguiled. You got to watch out for these people. Bernie Madoff ran his scam for 25 years before he was caught. 25 years. There are people out there that are so charismatic that will pay their private money lenders. The second you trip up, you're going to lose your money. Plan on it. Jerry, thank you for giving me your platform today, dude. I did not ask for this. And the fact that my best friend showed up for me and stood up for a community that loves you and adores you, it means the world to me, and I can't thank you enough.
Well, thank you for all you're doing, Pace, in the world. Ignore the haters. They're looking for any excuse they can. I think there's a lot of jealousy going on, or I'm not really sure what it is, but I'm glad you just let it roll off you and you don't let it phase you. It's amazing how you do that.
I don't see it. So I don't go, I create content. I don't consume a lot of content. So if somebody said something bad about me online, I won't see the comment ever. So all you guys out there that are haters, I love you. I appreciate you. I'm going to keep doing the thing that I keep doing, and we're going to keep cranking and educating people and helping the industry get better and better and better at helping these sellers. And I hope, if you're a regulator, I hope that more regulation comes along. Whatever it is, we do need your help in both wholesale regulation, in creative and cash, in real estate agent regulation. I mean, look what happened with the National Association of Realtors with buyer's agent commissions and all that kind of stuff. Didn't really do much, but they're trying. So, Jerry, once again, thank you. Ella, happy birthday, you young lady. Correy, thank you, man. Thank you for coming on here. It means a lot.
Yeah,
keep in touch with us. Ella and Correy, Pace and I are going to be following this. Keep in touch with us as things happen. You know, we want to. This is going to make us all better, Pace. This is really going to make us all better because I think everyone's going to be more on alert, which is what needs to happen right now. Everyone's going to have their eyes open. We're going to be more careful. We're going to underwrite better. We're going to lend better. We're going to borrow better. We're going to transact better. This is going to be something that makes us all better in the long run.
And Ella Ray, this is actually a good point for what Jerry's saying. Does it suck that 110 sellers are going to be impacted? Horribly. Can't fix that. It's horrible. It's not fun. Is it fun that 60 private money lenders lost some of their retirement, are going to have to, go back and earn that money back? Horrible, disastrous, horrible. But what if this situation is happening to highlight and give an incredible story for us to do another safety semester, bring in more attorney stuff, and actually have a real story to talk about? Look how bad this is. Right? So that we're not giving like bland examples. We're giving real life examples that have happened. This can be used properly to amplify the education and hopefully get people to pay attention to the education we've already done about it. But now bringing in attorneys to reference this case specifically, I think will amplify the entire industry, and it will do more good than it ever did in harm if we make it so.
100%. Absolutely. I agree with you 100%. I think that this is going to fuel that. And no one can ever say that we don't teach the community how to do good business, but there's always going to be some bad apples, and that cannot be prevented. I mean, we try as best as we can, but that's all we can do is try.
We just need more warriors, people to stand up.
Right. That too. That too.
And you know what, guys? We honestly, we don't need regulation to come from the consumer protection agencies, from the real estate commissions, from all. We should self-regulate. We should all regulate each other. When you see something going down that is not right, you need to stand up to that. Stand up to that person, bring it to light, let your community leaders know, warn other people. Like, we have to self-police this industry. That's the fastest and easiest and most efficient way to raise the bar, is we all raise the bar and we all police ourselves around how to do things the right way.
100%. I'm going to make it a goal to start talking to more of the members outside of the community in real estate spaces outside of here to, talk about this, because I think they're just so, I mean, I just had a deal where the realtor literally let the guy foreclose because she couldn't get $500 more in her commission.
It happens all the time. Commission growth is real. I deal with that every single day.
It's crazy. So I think, the fact that they're so scared of SubTo, I mean, I think we really need to talk about it and let them know, like, sometimes this is the only option for sellers, and it doesn't have to be in a way that, where they're left hanging out to dry like this. Like,
we had a deal recently where it was a foreclosure, auctions coming up. We contract with the seller. This was a wholesale deal. We find our buyer, but we're short about $4,000 to close the deal. And we made a decision as a company that we were going to write the check as the wholesaler. We're going to write the $4,000 check to get the deal done, to prevent the foreclosure from happening to the seller. And you know what? I'll always remember that deal. I won't remember the deal we did that made 25 grand, but I'll always remember the deal I lost 4 grand because we helped the seller in a bad situation. Now, I can't do that every day, but like, those are the things that matter. And if more people had that servant attitude and would show up that way to bless lives and help people, we all can make money. We all can help each other. I think that's going to come around full circle eventually. That was my attitude towards that situation. But what a blessing we have, all of us, to be in a free country, to transact, to do deals, to make money. I just thank God every day that we even have these opportunities, because some places don't, other countries don't, and we do. And what a blessing that is.
Amen.
Hallelujah.
Thanks again, Jerry. I appreciate you texting me today and doing this live. I don't think I sent a text message to you and everybody else. I said, a man convinced against his will is of the same opinion still, which is, I'm not going to try and convince people creative finance something they don't believe it is. That's not my job. My job is to find the people that believe that it can be done right. And along the way, name one thing that was life-changing, earth-shattering, positive to the whole entire world that did not have problems along the way. And sadly, as like a leader of what Jerry's done and a leader of what I've done in my life, you got to take shots from haters as you continue to move forward. Look at Elon Musk, for example. I know I'm not comparing myself to Elon Musk, but think about a guy who's created Starlink, the Boring Company, XAI, bought Twitter, did all these things. And how many people freaking hate that guy? Full on armies of people attack his dealerships and everything else. Am I an Elon fan? Not an important thing, but you're going to be attacked no matter how much you change the world. If you decide you want to go create positive change in the world, you're going to be attacked. And I think that when people hate me, one, I don't see it. Somebody just said in the side chat, Pace is Ray Charles to all the BS. That is correct. I'm blind to it. I don't see it. I'm in my world. I'm creating. But I hope that this negative vibe that's going on turns into something incredibly positive. Otherwise, it was a waste. So thank you again, Jerry. Thank you, Ella. Thank you, Corey, for being here. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, guys.